There aren't many people in the world that can say they've met the Pope. Besides other famous people and people of power, it's very rare that an average, everyday person gets to meet the Pope. Still, if you're ever lucky enough to meet him, there are quite a few rules and guidelines that you must adhere to. As the Pope, many duties have to be taken care of. Not only is he the leader of the Catholic Church, but he also has political power as he helps maintain diplomatic relationships with many other nations. He travels all over the world, meeting his most devout worshippers as he delivers liturgies to them. If you're not trying to make a mistake and look foolish in front of the holiest man, you must stick close to the rules. Lucky for you, we're going to discuss all of the rules you must follow when it comes to meeting the Pope. Dress to impress. Like any big, important event that you would attend, there's a dress code involved. When meeting the Pope, you must dress modestly and be mindful of how much skin you're showing. For men, it's recommended that they wear long pants, and shorts are not allowed. There should be no sleeveless shirts of any kind, and short sleeves are really frowned upon as well, unless it's excessively hot outside. If you're unsure, the ideal things to wear would be a dark-colored suit jacket and a modest-colored and patterned tie. It's better to be more formal than casual if you'd rather be safe than sorry. For women, it's a different story. Their dress code is a little more strict, as they want to make sure that most of the skin is covered up. Shoulders should be covered at all times, and it's recommended that women wear dresses that fall below the knee. It's also essential that they wear closed-toed shoes and not wear any over-the-top jewelry. Believe it or not, the color of the clothing is also crucial. Women should wear dark, muted colors, specifically black. You should also stay very far away from wearing white, as the color is only reserved for certain people who have the privilege du blanc. Only women of a certain status have the privilege of wearing white while meeting the Pope, such as queens of Catholic countries or the wife of the head of state of a Catholic country. The Pope is in the room, now what? When it's time to actually meet the Pope in the flesh, there are even more rules to follow. Like meeting any other important person, you tend to treat them specially, and you should do the same for the Pope. Once the Pope finally enters the room, you must stand and applaud. The same for when he leaves the room you're in. It's much like when you're in a courtroom and the judge enters the room. Everyone stands when they enter and stands when they leave. It's a sign of respect, and what better way to show the holiest man the respect he deserves than applauding him whenever he enters a room. Play it cool when he approaches you. Once the Pope approaches you, it's very similar to meeting a queen or a member of a monarchy. It's customary to bow or gently bend at the knee when the Pope first walks up to you. Since the Pope is the Pope, he never has to introduce himself. If you ever have the chance to meet him, don't anticipate him introducing himself. Instead, make sure you make the move to introduce yourself first. Most importantly, you must address the Pope properly when you speak to him. No need to call him your Majesty or anything like that, but definitely stick to addressing him as Your Holiness, Most Holy Father, as well as Holy Father. Also, if you're worried about a language barrier, don't be afraid, as the Pope can speak Spanish, German, and Italian fluently. He can also understand a bit of English, Portuguese, and French. Therefore, the Pope can most likely understand you, even if it's a tiny bit. Kissing the ring. You may have heard about people kissing the Pope's ring if they ever have the opportunity to. When Catholics meet the Pope, it's a very special meeting for them. The Pope wears a ring known as the fisherman's ring, and it's a tradition that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. Each Pope has his own special fisherman's ring, and when a Pope dies, his ring would be destroyed and a new ring would be made for a new Pope. Being the most important person in the Catholic Church, many practiced Catholics would do anything to kiss the ring of the Pope to show their respect for him. If you're not a Catholic and you have the opportunity to meet the Pope, you don't have to kiss the fisherman's ring or his hand. Instead, a simple handshake would suffice. In fact, these days, the Pope actually prefers handshakes instead of people kissing his ring or his hand. There was a bit of controversy when there was a video of Pope Francis meeting a crowd of his devoted worshippers back in 2019. In the beginning, you can see them reaching to kiss his ring, and at first, he allows them to. After a while, he pulls his hand away, causing an uproar as to why the Pope would break a centuries-old tradition. According to Pope Francis, it wasn't meant disrespectfully. Instead, the Pope was actually more worried about hygiene and spreading germs. If you think about it, he certainly does have a point, especially in this day and age with the coronavirus pandemic. With so many people kissing his ring and his hand, so many germs are being spread around. Hopefully, even the most devoted Catholics would understand why Pope Francis would decide to change this centuries-old tradition. To hug or not to hug. There are tons of pictures of popes that embrace their followers, emotional moments between His Holiness and a devout Catholic. While it might be okay to hug the Pope in certain moments, you definitely should not try to. The Pope, much like a president or a monarch, has to be protected at all times. They try to keep interactions between the Pope and his worshippers brief. There have been instances where people are so caught up in their emotions while meeting the Pope that their first instinct is to run up to him and hug him. Some people have even jumped over barriers to embrace him. As much as the Pope loves his worshippers, you have to look at it from a safety standpoint as well. For a man of his power, to have someone just run up to him and embrace him so suddenly can be a little scary. It's easy to get caught up in the moment, but definitely try not to hug the Pope unless he makes the move first, of course. Stay away from selfies. In this day and age, we're all about technology and capturing the important moments of our lives. While popes have been an essential part of the Catholic religion for centuries, selfies and cell phones have not. It's understandable that if you ever had the opportunity to meet the Pope, you would want to document such an important moment and take a photo with him. You might want to think twice though, as the Pope isn't a huge fan of taking selfies. Pope Francis has even commented on the matter, saying that these people who want selfies aren't in the real world, rather that they are visualized youths, and that their reality is using technology to make memories rather than shaking the Pope's hand. Of course, the Pope will take a few pictures, most likely in a smaller setting, but don't bombard him with your cell phone, and most definitely leave the selfie stick at home for this one. Don't be tardy. Obviously, in any meeting you have, you should not be late, and you really shouldn't be late if you ever have the opportunity to meet with the Pope. He has a hectic schedule for someone of his importance, so if he makes time to meet with you, it's a pretty big deal. When Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Pope Francis, he left him waiting for quite some time. Although Putin has been known to be late on many occasions, you simply don't leave the Pope waiting for you. Although Putin usually doesn't offer an explanation as to why he was late, when it came to leaving the Pope waiting, he uncharacteristically offered an explanation for his tardiness. Best to not be late though. Stay away from politics. Most of the time, if you're just a regular person meeting the Pope, you really don't have to worry about discussing politics with him. Either way though, it should be avoided. Many politicians meet with the Pope for a political agenda, even if they don't want to admit it. In 2020, the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, tried to organize a meeting with Pope Francis when Pompeo spoke at a conference on religious freedom. The Pope actually declined to meet with Pompeo because it was so close to the presidential election. The Pope, along with Vatican officials, believed that the meeting was more for political gain and that it exploited the Pope more than anything else, which really angered him. Don't worry about correcting him. If you have the opportunity to have a conversation with the Pope and he accidentally makes a mistake while speaking, don't worry about correcting him. Although the Pope can be wrong, when he makes a declaration, papal infallibility comes into play, meaning that he cannot be wrong about a doctrine. That's not to say that the Pope cannot be wrong ever, but it's best to save the awkwardness when you're face to face. If he accidentally says something wrong, just brush it off. The Pope is a man of high power and importance, as he's the closest person in connection to God. It only makes sense why there are so many rules to follow when you're in his presence. Like any monarchy, president, or any other important member of the government, you have rules to follow to not only keep them safe, but to keep things proper. Now that you know all of the rules you must follow when you meet the Pope, what do you think? Do you think that they're too over the top? Or do you think it makes sense for someone as important as the Pope? Let me know what you think in the comments.